I'm Belen Torres, and this is Coulter Smith, and we're going to be presenting Proposition 33. It prohibits state limitations on local rent control initiatives in 2024. And so the background on Proposition 33 is that renters in California pay about 50% more than renters in other states, with some areas charging more than double the national average. The shortage of available housing is what drives these high prices due to competition increasing among renters, which increases the rent costs. Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Jose have already established rent control laws that limit yearly rent increases. And additionally, a state law restricts most rent increases to a maximum of 5% plus inflation and up to 10%, which will be effective until 2030. Proposition 33 proposes to repeal the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act of 1965, which will allow cities and counties in California to expand rental control to have more types of housing and restricts the initial rent charges for new tenants.
Okay, so as Baylin mentioned, kind of the meat and potatoes of Prop 33 is the Costa-Hawkins Act, Rental Housing Act of 1965. And this has been tried to been repealed in both 2018 and 2020, but obviously those propositions didn't pass because it's still on the ballot today. So there are three main things about Costa-Hawkins. It establishes that rent control laws passed by cities and counties cannot, one, apply to single family homes, two, apply to any housing built on or after February 1st, 1995, and three, tell a landlord what they can charge a new renter. And the last one's very important just because landlords can keep up with changing market conditions. So a new person comes in, they can adjust what to charge them based on what the market is saying. Now, what exactly will Prop 33 do? As I'm sure you gathered, the biggest thing it's going to do, and mainly the only thing it's going to do, is eliminate Costa-Hawkins. It's going to repeal this act, which is going to allow cities and counties to pass more restrictive legislation for rent control. And included in this is rent control limits for new renters. Next, it's also going to limit local regulation. California government won't be able to take future actions on rent control passed by local governments. So these three big things that Costa-Hawkins is currently doing will be eliminated, and local governments will have more ability to limit. Um, Lastly, I just want to note that Prop 33 won't change any local laws regarding rent control. It is just repealing what the state government can't do in terms of cities and counties' rent control laws. Now, what are other consequences of Prop 33? The first is decreased tax revenue. And this is kind of like you don't really see, it's not a main effect, but Prop 33 was going to cause a decline in property value, which is going to decrease property taxes paid by landlords. The second is another indirect effect, but also pretty obvious. There's going to be increased government costs. This is going to be a very burdensome thing to implement. So the government is gonna have a lot of costs to make sure that renters and landlords are following these new rent control laws.
A yes vote for Proposition 33 would include California state law to not limit rent control laws that cities and counties could have. And a no vote for Proposition 33 would mean that California law would continue to limit rent control laws that cities and counties can have. And those in support of the proposition are the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, the Kevin DeLeon for Lieutenant Governor 2026, and Unite Here Local 11. And the reasoning behind their support for the proposition is that rent is too high, and this would allow people to keep their homes, and that 17 million renters in California need housing relief. And those in opposition of Proposition 33 are the California Apartment Association Issues Committee, the California Association of Realtors, and the National Association of Realtors. And the reasoning behind their opposition is that they want to encourage local governments to pass rent control and vacancy decontrol legislation, and that they believe that the proposition doesn't include measures to solve the housing shortage. And as you can see, those in the opposing side have donated more funds towards supporting the opposition of the proposition. As you can see, one of the main donors for the opposition is the California Apartment Association Issues Committee with $88,290,000. And the main donor for supporting the proposition is the AIDS Healthcare Foundation.
Here are the sources that we used. We used a lot of government websites, California Chamber of Commerce, a voter's guide, and then our big source to determine the supporting and opposition parties' donation amount was the LA Times. And thank you.